My name is Tim Jakubowski. I'm an Oregon State graduate, and I studied BIS while I was here at Oregon State. Today, I'm a partner at KPMG, where I lead a lot of public company IT audits.
Hi, my name is Kanika Saraya Havelia. I'm a director with KPMG Consulting Practice. I specialize in technology risk. I advise companies on risk transformation and modern ways of managing risk.
I'm going to talk about IT audits and what happens when IT controls fail, or in our industry, are deficient. Deficiencies are defined by the PCAOB audit standards. The PCAOB is a nonprofit corporation that was established by Congress to oversee the audits of public companies. One way to interpret what the PCAOB is that they are the auditors of the auditor. Another really important concept to understand about public company audits is there's two separate audits that they go through every single year. One audit is their SOX audit, which is also referred to as Sarbanes-Oxley, and the other audit is over their financial statements, also referred to as FSA financial statement audit. Now, how do we define control exceptions or control failures? I'm going to use the definition from the PCAOB audit standards. A deficiency exists when the design or operation of a control does not allow management or employees in the course of performing their assigned functions to prevent or detect misstatements on a timely basis. This simply means that a control did not work. Deficiencies, I think it's important to note, are really common, and an example of this may be that a person got access to an IT system without approval. The next level of deficiencies is a significant deficiency, which is a deficiency or a combination of deficiencies that is important enough to merit the attention of those responsible for the oversight of financial reporting. Specifically, this would be the board of directors or the audit committee. A material weakness, the most severe, is a deficiency or a combination of deficiencies such that there's a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement of the company's annual or interim financial statements will not be prevented or detected on a timely basis. The other thing to note with material weaknesses is these are publicly disclosed for shareholders, investors, and everybody to see.
Let's talk about what can mitigate or limit the severity of a deficiency and how a compensating control can make an impact. Compensating controls are controls that address the same risk as the deficient control. Let's take an example. If a company has a risk of inappropriate users accessing its system, the company addresses this risk by putting in place some access controls. One such access control is user termination control, in which the company removes the system access of the employees who are no longer with the company. Another control is user review control, where every quarter or so, the company reviews the access of all the users on the system and removes the ones who have left the company or no longer need the access. So we have two controls, user term control and an user access review control, both ensuring the access to the system is appropriate. In the event user term control is deficient, because the company did not terminate a user timely when they left the company, the user review control will eventually spot this user and the access would be removed. Here, the user termination control was the deficient control and the user access review control is the compensating control. The compensating control may mitigate the severity of a deficiency, but it does not eliminate the deficiency. Think of it as deficiencies still exist because the control failed, but the impact of the failure is reduced due to the presence of another control. Let's look into why IT deficiencies can be problematic. IT deficiencies can have impact on audit due to two key reasons. Firstly, IT deficiency can be pervasive. And secondly, there can be a risk of aggregation of deficiencies. Let's talk about pervasiveness. If there is a failure in the foundation of the house comes crumbling down. Similarly, IT systems are the foundation of the business. IT systems not only store data and information, but also support business process and its execution. If an IT control is deficient, then the information from the IT system is not reliable anymore. Information used in accounting processes cannot be trusted anymore. Or even accounting transactions and processes may have financial errors. Another reason why IT controls can have an impact on audit is from the aggregation risk. In and itself, an individual IT control may not have a significant impact on audit, but if there are multiple control deficiencies, and if you step back and look at all of them in aggregation, they may indicate much bigger issues, sometimes even leading up to material weakness. We will look at some of these examples here in a few minutes. Well, why do we care about material weaknesses? Material weakness is disclosed in company's 10K filing. 10K filing is the annual report from the company on its financial statements that is submitted to SEC and is published to all their stakeholders. It is basically a report card on a company's financial health. So a material weakness can lead to reputation damage, loss of business, loss of stakeholder value, etc. Now, let's look at a practical example where an IT deficiency leads to material weakness. Companies have controls to restrict administrative access to IT systems. Admin access is high risk because admin access gives you keys to the kingdom. Typically, an admin access is restricted to technical IT users, and while business users like accounting and finance teams have access to the system, but they don't have admin access. You can change system data, system configurations, and system settings if you have admin access. This in turn may impact business processes those IT systems are supporting. One of the SEC-listed companies had control failure where the admin access was not appropriately restricted. There were users who moved departments or left the company and still had admin access to the system. Or even there were users from accounting and finance who had admin access. This resulted in a risk of system changes and data changes that are unauthorized or inappropriate. Hence, any report coming out of the system being used by the company in their business controls cannot be relied anymore. Also, the controls like journal entries are posted only after approval or payments are authorized after approvals, etc., can no longer be relied upon. An accounting user, for instance, could create a fraudulent journal entry, change the system setting to remove all the mandatory approvals from the system, and post the same journal entry, leading to a financial misstatement which couldn't have been detected by any of the controls. So, as these controls can no longer be relied upon, this resulted in material weakness.
There are lots of examples where IT deficiencies or a combination of IT deficiencies have led to material weaknesses. The real so what on why this matters is because of the downstream impacts that IT has on a company's controls. Think about it this way. If there are a lot of deficiencies in system access, whether that's inappropriate admin access, or people that just have inappropriate access to a system, or people with access that no longer work for a company, then those people could have made changes to data or information that's used to perform other important controls that accounting uses. If you cannot trust the data used in a business process control because of an IT deficiency, then you cannot rely on or take credit for that control operating. This is an example where IT deficiencies can start a domino effect throughout the entire audit. Another really good example that could result in an IT material weakness is through the testing of IT automated controls. I recall a recent situation where our team tested a journal entry configuration control, and during the testing, we could see the configuration was changed 2 months prior. While we were tying out our controls over change testing and approval, we found that the journal entry configuration change was not tested and approved by management. Therefore, you can't rely on the general controls, and this could be a very pervasive issue. Even though the company was able to prove the journal entry control configuration was working correctly, there was a material weakness that existed because changes did happen, and they could have happened anywhere. To summarize, IT controls, while they may seem like basic blocking and tackling, can have an outsized impact on a company's audit if the controls go wrong. Understanding this, whether you're in IT audit, IT operations, accounting, or an executive, gives you a leg up.